introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've been around for a long, long year. So many a man sold and saved. I was around when Jesus Christ had his moment of doubt and pain. Make damn sure that Pilate washed his hands to seal his fate. Pleased to meet you, hope you guess my name. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. I stuck around St. Petersburg when I saw it was a time for change. I killed the Tsar and his ministers. Anastasia screamed in vain. I rode a tank and the generals rang when the blitzkrieg rained and the bodies stank. Pleased to meet you, hope you guess my name. But what's puzzling you is the nature of my game. I watch with glee while your kings and queens would pretend the case for the guns they made. I shouted out, who killed the Kennedys? When after all, it was you and me. But let me please introduce myself. I'm a man of wealth and taste. I've laid traps for troubadours who get killed before they reach.
Good evening, or morning for some of you, maybe. Minotaur, how are you? Huli, Lori James, Mark Connor, Ebby, Seven Martin, Kurt Hensley, Alan K. Good to see you guys. Mountain Dew, Journeyman, sympathy for the searchers, right? All of us dealing with this whole virus, everything else that's going on. Thought I'd give you a little bit of flip side. I gotta shut this off. So just a couple of admin things, guys, really quick. Had some issues with my internet a little bit, so we don't know how the connectivity is going to be tonight. Hopefully everything goes smooth. But I want to welcome some of you that are maybe not familiar with the flip side. This is the original non-PC beer drinking, thrill of the chase talking show. So it wouldn't be a beer drinking show if we didn't have some beer. So tonight I'm drinking La Cumbra Brewery, brew called Elevated IPA. It's got a high content, it's about 7.2%. So you never know what's going to come out of flip tonight, guys. So I'm going to pour me my cold one. Hopefully you have your beverage of choice and you've stocked up on your beverages of choice because you never know when we're going to go into a 24-hour lockdown these days, right? We haven't gone here in New Mexico yet, but it's quite possible. I can't even, that's as much as I can get in there. And this is my Three Rivers Brewery. So I wanted to say cheers to all of you in the chat room tonight. That's good. So again, guys, I may have some internet connectivity issues tonight. We're just testing it out. Haven't done anything in 6 months, obviously. I did a little test the other day on my Facebook group, and we just had some connectivity issues. So I don't know if it was just Facebook or if it's just my internet here. So one other thing, guys, is I will be doing a contest this evening. So for all of those of you who comment in the comment section below tonight in the video and who also like the video, everything else, super chat, all that other stuff, I will be giving away a free roll of toilet paper. So I know how important and valuable this stuff is these days. So this is a big giveaway. Anyway, guys, just having a bit of fun. Hope you guys get my humor. If not, it's okay. Again, cheers. Craig Carter, how are you? Mary Green, Jake Faulkner, good to see you in here. Excuse me, Zozo Rocks, a couple of other people coming in, Otis Maggio. So a lot of you guys that are obviously subscribe to the channel and get the notifications are actually finding out that, holy shit, Flipside is live tonight. So yes, I'm probably not going to do a whole lot of, a long video tonight. This is just really kind of getting back into it, whether I want to consider this back into it or I'm just giving you guys something, the flip side of kind of the debates and conversations that are going out there in the Fenniverse right now. So there's really three things that I kind of wanted to talk about tonight. One, I want to talk about the recent, featured Q&A that came out over on Mysterious Writings about the Homer Brown. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background history on that, as far as what I know, and a little bit of the flip side opinion on brown trout being the Homer Brown or related to brown or whatever. And then I want to talk a little bit about the first stanza. There's a lot of people that believe the first stanza, kind of points to the geographical region where warm water salt resides in. I kind of want to give you the flip side of that and my opinion on that. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about a little conversation I was having with Jenny Kyle over on Mysterious Writings about an old 6-question comment from Forrest Fenn. So those are the kind of things I want to talk about tonight. Again, guys, don't forget about the toilet paper contest we're giving away tonight. I want all your guys' contact information and email so I can put you on my email list for whenever I go on. I'm just kidding. But yes, please comment and like the video. Gotta know, guys, I'm a smart ass, just how I am. Cheers. My wall of pictures has grown, Craig. No, I think it's the same. It's not. We're not in the office back there that has kind of been taken over by the kids and the extra TV and everything we got going on back there. And speaking of kids, my kids are here. What, sweetheart?
Can you pull my hair out?
You want me to pull your hair out? She wants me to pull the thing out of her hair. Come here, turn around. Oh boy, Mama really got this in here. Yes, the house husband has nothing on the flip side. Oh man, this is really taking up in there, sweetheart.
Wait, it is?
Okay, I'm getting it. You want to say hi to Mama? I think she might be watching. You want to say hi?
Yeah.
Okay, quick, say hi to Mama.
Hi.
Okay, I love you. To bed. Bye. Okay.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you.
That is my daughter. She is 6. And it was funny, I was talking over on Harry's today, and we were talking about subjectivity and interpretations of things and everything. And I posed a funny little thing in there where my eldest daughter, who just turned 20, we just had her birthday and we had some leftover cake from there. And my youngest daughter, who you just saw, asked for a piece of that cake. So I cut her what I thought was a decent sized piece of cake, and I handed it over to her, and she looked at it and goes, "That's way too small," and was all upset. And, I thought this was the right piece of cake for her. And then my wife looks at it and goes, "That's way too big," So again, like the 3 little bears, it's everybody's opinion. It's just right. It's too small. It's too big. Anyway, sorry, I'm rambling off on something else there. Yes, Marty Bird, "Sympathy for the Devil" is one of my favorite songs. And seeing as I can't play the Rolling Stones one, I have to do a cover of it so I don't get some kind of copyright infringement. I'm just checking in here, see who else jumped in here. I think I said hi to everybody, but I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. CMC, what's up? How are you? Sal O'Mander, thank you. Welcome back. It's been 6 months, I think, since I've done anything. Again, I'm always active on the forum saying hi and stuff. But Sassafras, CMT, I think you and I communicate a little bit on one of the chat rooms. Good to see you in here. Anna Graham, hey, brother, how are you? Marty Bird, I think I already said hi to you. Yep. Okay, guys, so this whole recent featured Q&A about the Homer Brown. And I think it basically said, there's talk that Forrest Fenn, you said that the Homer Brown has nothing to do with brown trout. And Forrest Fenn turned around and said, that's not true. I've never said that, or something to that effect. I want to give you guys a little bit of background on this. It was in I want to believe it was 2017, Stephanie Longacre over on Chase Chat had posted basically she had posted what was a response from another searcher that had sent her an email, and she kind of cut and pasted that email into one of the threads. And one of those things that was in there was that that Forrest Fenn had told this searcher that had sent Stephanie this information that Homer Brown had nothing to do with brown trout. And that caused quite a bit of a stir, over at Chase Chat. Well, I was trying to do my due diligence, trying to figure out if that was true. And I had talked to Stephanie, via email and said, hey, where did this information come from? And she had told me that this information had come from Cynthia Meacham. So I was like, okay. So I tracked down via another searcher and said, hey, can you pass on my email to Cynthia? I want to talk to her and confirm whether this is true or not. And Cynthia eventually did email me, and we got in touch, and I asked her about that. And Cynthia had given me the background on this, and basically the background on this whole conversation happened with her and Forrest Fenn, in person with Forrest Fenn in his home back in 2014, where Cynthia was reciting her solve at the time to Forrest Fenn, and that revolved around the Colorado and New Mexico border along the Rio Grande being her interpretation of where warm waters halt. And then the canyon down was obviously, from there, the Rio Grande. And then her Homer Brown happened to be the confluence of the Red River and the Rio Grande right there below Cuesta, New Mexico, which there's actually a fish hatchery just a couple miles up the Red River from that confluence, where it's called La Junta Point. Junta. Actually, I've had one of my first solve was it in that area. And then she had said, that was her Homer Brown. And why she was saying that, according to Cynthia and her interpretation, is that Forrest was shaking his head no like this, as if to imply that was not the Homer Brown or was incorrect or had nothing to do with brown trout. Well, Cynthia had interpreted that to be a confirmation that, trout or brown trout had nothing to do with the Homer Brown. And then somehow that got passed on, verbatim to Stephanie Longacre, that Homer Brown had nothing to do with brown trout. But at that time, Cynthia, apparently, according to the email that was cut and paste between Stephanie and Cynthia into Chase Chat, was that, absolutely Forrest Fenn had said brown trout had nothing to do with Homer Brown. So it was this complete, I hate to call it hearsay, rumor, innuendo, but it kind of was. It's this, I've said it many times before. If you've listened to any of my videos, going back a couple of years, hearsay, rumor, and innuendo is just that. And it causes so much misinformation and misleading. You've got to be really careful. You've got to not only judge the information and fact check it, which is what I was trying to do by contacting Stephanie and then contacting Cynthia to try and get the truth. But it's that old telephone game, how stuff can just be misconstrued. And then it just misleads you searchers. Me too, if that's true, I need to figure it out. And it just goes back to, my old military experience being an analyst. You have to fact check things. You have to check things between multiple sources to find out its validity and the trustworthiness of the source. And I think Cynthia is a very trustworthy source. I think she takes very good notes, but even she at that point actually kind of got it wrong, and misconstrued what was being said or implied by Forrest as to be this. Now, if you want my opinion, and this is my opinion only, brown in the poem has nothing to do with brown trout. Now, again, it's my opinion. Do I know that is fact definitively? Absolutely not. So I'm not trying to mislead you. I'm just trying to say, in my interpretation, as a self-anointed poem purist, one who has a belief and faith that all the information I need to find the treasure is wholly in the poem, then I firmly believe that grammar, word meanings, and yes, punctuation are important. And capitalization and the rules of capitalization do fall under the rules of grammar. A lot of people don't believe in that. Just ask Chicago Dave, right? We all know that one where Forrest Fenn said, whose rules, Chicago Dave? Cheers. I see the flip side being popped up there, guys. I'm trying to get through a lot of this stuff. You know how I am. I'm very bad about ignoring the chat room, but cheers. Minotaur. Yeah, I don't want to say definitively I'm quote unquote back. Just kind of talking with some other searchers today. We're kind of like, yeah, we just really need, everybody's kind of, I hate to say cabin fever, yeah, the search season should be starting up, but then you've got this whole virus crap, where everybody's looking for toilet paper. I'm not trying to make light of it, and maybe I am. I know it's a serious thing, but a lot of people are stuck at home. A lot of people are stuck in their apartments. They can't get out. They want to, go out and to their favorite restaurant or their favorite bar and go out and mingle with their friends, and we're being told not to. So, maybe it's a good time just to give you guys the flip side of all the information that's out there. Kurt, that is why hearsay is not allowed in a court of law. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just innuendo and hearsay. It's not provable fact, and it can be rumor, innuendo, and hearsay can be very damaging to a person's reputation. And in this chase, it can be very damaging to a person's thought process, and you got people that are going out there and spending, their summers or their quality time or even money to go out there and search areas. And you try and fact check this information as best as you can. And that's what I'm trying to do for you guys, is provide you a little bit of that backstory. If you want more information on that, you can email me, and I can provide you with that, what I have, as not just proof of that, but to make sure that you understand what actually took place from the horse's mouth, which is that being Cynthia. And even in the couple of emails I got from Cynthia, she kind of still got it wrong, where she was saying that what was said about the Homer Brown not being brown trout was spot on based on what, that Forrest Fenn said brown trout had nothing to do with the Homer Brown. And then in another email, she was telling me the whole story about how Forrest Fenn was just shaking his head, where he didn't definitively say that Homer Brown had nothing to do with brown trout. He was just shaking his head no. Was he saying no to the fact that Homer Brown is not the confluence of the Red River and the Rio Grande? Or was he saying no, that brown trout have nothing to do with the Homer Brown? Which is it? Again, we don't know the complete context of that conversation because it was just between Cynthia and Forrest. And that's why I went directly to Cynthia to try and get a very definitive answer on what took place. And that's what I thought I got from her. And it still may be true. Again, she can clarify it more if she wants to. And, I welcome that. If I'm getting it wrong, then I'm getting it wrong based on what she told me. So I would love for it to be cleared up if I'm wrong. Minotaur Marino. So we still agree I'm the lead searcher? Sure. Is there you guys missed my little bit of a conversation over on Facebook about my whole thought on Forrest Fenn saying, according to him, there's no such thing as a lead searcher. Again, Forrest Fenn has admitted that to his uncertain knowledge about things, no one to my uncertain knowledge has analyzed one important possibility related to the winning solve. So he is thus admitting, even at that point in time, that his knowledge about certain things is uncertain, because not every searcher communicates with Forrest Fenn. And not everybody, like those prominent, I guess I hate to say prominent searchers, because you can't definitively say what a prominent searcher is, but there's a lot of searchers that communicate more with Forrest Fenn than others. But not everybody, even including probably a very high percentage of you that are in the chat room tonight, communicate on a regular basis with Forrest Fenn via either going to his home or by email. I think I actually emailed Forrest Fenn for the first time in nearly 6 months just the other day, asking him a question. I haven't gotten a response from him, but that's fine. I don't expect responses from him all the time. Cheers. but some people don't ever email him. So how does he know what every searcher is thinking? And I think the way that Christy worded that question to Forrest Fenn, and I thought it was very funny because Forrest Fenn was expecting that question from Christy, because he said, well, define what is a lead searcher. And I think her definition of Forrest Fenn then gave him the context of how to answer that question. By her definition of her saying, well, a lead searcher is someone who is closest to the treasure. Okay. How many of you don't live within one of the search states? Minotaur Marino, where do you live? Anagram, where do you live? Otis Maggio, where do you live? Journeyman, where do you live? Sean, where do you live? You know, hardly any of us are fortunate enough to live in one of the search states. I happen to be one, but if the treasure is in Montana, you know, is somebody who lives in Montana the lead searcher? Because according to Christy, it's someone who's closest to the treasure chest. Hold on. You want an apple? Hold on, guys. I got to get my son a treat. I'll be right back. Keep that thought, though. We're talking about lead searcher. Okay. You saying hi? Come here. Baba. Here, now, go to bed. Love you.
Love you too.
And that is my son. Okay, we're talking about lead searcher. So let's hypothetically say that the treasure is located in Montana. Okay, it may be, may not. Now, if one of you lives in Montana, what, sweetheart? Bubba had the last banana, and you got an apple. Okay. So you've had enough already, sweetheart. Okay, let's go lay down. My wife is working at the hospital, and with everything that's going on, of course, we all know how that is. So anyway, lead searcher. Again, if you live in Montana, you know, are you considered the lead searcher because you're the one that's physically closest to the treasure? What if you live in Montana, but you think the treasure's in New Mexico? You're the lead searcher? No, but you think it's in New Mexico. You're not the lead searcher, you know? So I think the better way to phrase that is, you know, a lead searcher could be someone who maybe has never even searched ever, has actually ever been boots on the ground, but because they maybe have a better understanding of the poem and the clues and even the subtle clues that are sprinkled in the stories, that maybe have a better understanding of that, maybe somebody who is the lead searcher. Now, that person may not even communicate with Forrest and may not even communicate on the blogs or the forums or YouTube or any of the other medias that we have out there. But that person could theoretically be the lead searcher out there, even though they've never even put a single boots on the ground out there. So again, to Forrest Fenn's uncertain knowledge, he can't even, you know, definitively say that there is a lead searcher out there. But I think we have to just theorize that it is possible that there is a person out there, a searcher out there that has the best understanding of the poem, everything else, has the correct starting point nailed down, and has theoretically been within that 200-foot radius, but they yet have not recovered the treasure because they just haven't figured out how to get from that 200 feet to within several steps of it to have a chance to find this thing. Just my thought on it. Doesn't make it right. Again, I just think that the way that, you know, that the quote-unquote lead searcher may have been defined is what gave Forrest in the context the answer to the question the way he did. Again, we're completely off topic, but I wanted to answer that question that was posed in there. To Minotaur, I guess, lead searcher. Cheers. Delux Grovias. I'm probably completely renouncing that. How are you? Yeah, I mean, theoretically, Sassafras, you could say we're all lead searchers until this thing is found, because we don't know who's closest. You know, I mean, We all think we're the lead searcher. We all think we're the closest. We all think that our ideas are better than everybody else's. And I'm no different than anybody else. I think we were talking about Homer Brown, and I want to get back a little bit on this that I started hitting on before I saw that question in here and totally got derailed and sidetracked. I had done a Fennsomnia back in, I want to say it was October of 2018, where I talked about the rules of capitalization. I'm just going to hit on this really quick and just kind of paraphrase everything really fast so we can move on to the next topic. That really there's only a couple rules about capitalization that may really apply in this treasure hunt when it comes to Brown and why it may be capitalized in the poem. And there's a couple examples. I think Forrest Fenn does a good job of giving us some examples, which theoretically could be subtle hints in the stories about capitalization. And there's one, and this is paraphrasing everything from memory. There's one that I think is in the chapter Surviving Myself. And he talks about when he used to go out and he shoot scissor tails for the family, for meat, because they only got meat on whatever days. And in one of the sentences, he capitalizes the word or, the name of the bird, scissor tails. But it is capitalized at the very beginning of the sentence because it's the first word in that sentence. And one of the rules of capitalization is you always capitalize the first word in a sentence, no matter what it is, whether it's as or whether it's brown or whatever it may be. In this case, he capitalized scissor tails. Now, in a following sentence, he then again mentions scissor tails, but it's not capitalized. And the reason why it's not capitalized is because it's in the middle of the sentence. And the reason why scissor tails, because it is a binomial nomenclature of a certain bird, it is not capitalized because it doesn't reference like an area that it derived from. Okay, and another example of that then, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here, is in the chapter Bessie and Me, he capitalizes Guernsey. Guernsey and he talks about Bessie because she was a Guernsey calf. Guernsey calves come from an island of Guernsey, and it is capitalized G because it talks about the binomial nomenclature of that animal because it is from the region that it derived from. This is the same difference of a Siamese cat. A Siamese cat, its binomial nomenclature is then capitalized because it is derived from Siam. Okay, the same thing can be said with German Shepherd. A German Shepherd derives from Germany. Thus, it is capitalized in its binomial nomenclature because it is from that very specific geographical region. Brown trout is not capitalized because it is not a geographical region from whence brown trout derive from, if you can understand that. Now, I'm not saying I'm right because some people don't believe that the poem was meant to follow the rules of capitalization, punctuation, and grammar. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying I'm following my confirmation bias that these things are important. Now, the only other rules of capitalization I think are being followed in the poem is that brown may be capitalized because it is a proper noun. And you always capitalize a proper noun, no matter whether it's in the beginning of a sentence or, in this case, in the end of a sentence, or in any other sense, in the middle of a sentence, because it is a very specific either person, place, or thing. That is why you capitalize a proper noun. It's like, London, you would capitalize London, or you would capitalize Farmington, New Mexico, or wherever you may be from, you would capitalize where you are from, if you were to put that in a sentence. So just a couple rules of capitalization, and guys, do your own research on this. Don't take my word for it. I expect you to do your own research. You're all smart, intelligent. You're in this chase. You're trying to learn things. Research for yourself. If I'm wrong and you think I'm wrong, put in the comments and say, Sean, you're a complete idiot. And there's been many people that have said that. Cheers. And in some cases, they're right. Mark Connor, what if it has both meanings? What if? Yeah, I mean, anything is possible. I personally don't think that way, but anything is possible. Again, I think Forrest Fenn has said, he wasn't playing any games in that poem. He was being, it's completely straightforward. So I don't think he's playing any games, that it could be both, if that's what you're kind of alluding to, Mark, but you never know. Okay, the next thing, unless you guys wanted to talk more about Brown or anything, or you had some questions of me on that, the next thing I kind of wanted to discuss is the first stanza. And there's a lot of people that have the belief that because the first clue, as Forrest Fenn states it, is begin at where warm waters halt. And I'm not going to get into the whole debate about my interpretation of the word first. That's a whole nother thing. I think most of you that know me know my interpretations of this. If the first clue is begin at where warm waters halt, a lot of people think that the first stanza then should be hinting at or giving us a clue or alluding to the geographical region that we're supposed to then find the correct warm waters halt. Because if there's many places in the Rocky Mountains where warm waters halt, then it's easy to infer that each state, that being Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, and the northern part of New Mexico, should have several, if not many, places where warm waters halt. So many people believe that first stanza may be alluding to the correct state or region or whatever, that the correct, or at least Forrest Fenn's interpretation of where warm waters halt exists within. I'm not saying that's incorrect. I'm just going to give you the flip side of this. And I posted this kind of thought process over on Harry's, and actually Dale Neitzel just started a new thread over on the Thrill of the Chase, Dale Neitzel's website, of the first stanza. After 10 years, he finally decided to do that. Good job, Chris and Dale, for doing that. Give you guys thumbs up for that. So you can find a little bit of this chat back and forth over there. Here's my thought on this, and why I believe that, yes, it is true that I think that the first clue is begin at where warm waters halt, but I still believe that doesn't state that the first stanza cannot potentially be a clue itself. A lot of people think because the first clue is this, that they think that the first stanza doesn't contain a clue, that it just may be a hint or whatever else. I'm not saying that's not true. This is just my belief. The first line of the poem we all know is, as I have gone alone in there. Now, when I read that, and I would believe that most of you, when you read that, the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, where is in there? And I go, okay, how do I figure out where in there is? Is in there supposed to be in the book? Is it in the rock somewhere in the Rocky Mountains north of Santa Fe? Is it in the canyon? Is it below the home of Brown? Is it in the woods? Is it, his special place, or many other things that I just can't think of the top of my head that I'm sure you guys will post in here. Where is in there at? And if Forrest Fenn has said that the first clue is, begin at where warm waters halt, if you don't have that, you don't have anything. So my thought process is in order to know where in there is, we have to figure out where the starting point is. We got to figure out where warm waters halt. If we don't have that, we don't know anything. So if we can first figure out where that starting location is, then will we not then understand where in there is that the first stanza alludes to, and then maybe understand more what the first stanza is actually trying to tell us. So hence, it could still be a clue. It's just not the first clue that we need to figure out. We need to figure out where we got to start. Once we figure out that place, then we potentially may know what Forrest Fenn is talking about when he says he went alone in there, because then we too may be going in there as well. Just a flip side thought. I'm not trying to discredit those people that believe that the first stanza, alludes to that, location that warm waters halt resides within, because that may be the right way to think about it. I'm not trying to mislead you or make you, if that's what you believe, to think differently. I'm just trying to get you to think of the flip side, or, again, there's three sides to every coin, like my friend DeCall says. There's heads, tails, and the rim. It's just the flip side, guys. Cheers. You guys just talking away in there. Mark Connor, Mysalva has 2 locations, all of 9 clues within 1,000 feet. First, yeah, could be, sure. There's a lot of people that look at the 9 clues as 9 separate geographical locations. That's quite possible. I personally don't see it that way, but that may be the right way. Okay. Yeah, and just one quick thing I wanted to bring up too, and I don't know if a lot of you caught onto this or pay attention to Harry's or Mysterious Writings and some of the stuff I post over there. But one thing I had posted just recently, and I've got to give some credit where credit is due. I think it was Loco Lobo, over on Dale Neitzel's site, that had brought this to my attention, because I had never heard it before. And I've been in this for 6 years or 5 years now. I never heard it before, but he had said that there was an audio out there where Forrest Fenn said the first few clues are the first 2 stanzas. And I was like, I don't remember ever hearing that. So I had to go and research that. And I can't remember who was it actually physically posted in there, because I was looking all day trying to find this. And then finally somebody had posted where it was. So it's actually posted in Dale Neitzel's media coverage page. And it's an audio interview from 2016 with a Spanish-speaking radio or podcast or whatever. But in there, the interviewer asked Forrest Fenn if he could read part of his poem. And Forrest Fenn turns around and says, sure, I'll read you the first few lines. And then he goes on to read stanzas 1 and 2, which is, as I have gone alone in there, and with my treasures bold, I can keep my secret where, and hint of riches new and old. Begin it where warm waters halt, and take it in the canyon down, not far, but too far to walk. Put in below the home of brown. Now he reads those 2 stanzas, but he says immediately before he reads them, he says, I'll read you the first few lines. And at the end of that, he said, he says that's my poem that has 24 stanzas in it, which I think he meant 24 lines. But then he goes on to say that's the first few clues, right? He's calling that the first few clues, and he's also calling it the first few lines. So I find that very interesting, because when I was asking people in another Facebook group, what they thought, the first line was, or the second line was, and the third line was, most people were responding and saying, well, the first line is, as I have gone alone in there. And then people would say the second line is, and with my treasures bold. And people would say the third line is, I can keep my secret where. But to Forrest Fenn, he says the first few lines is, and he reads the first couple of stanzas. And then he turns around and says that's the first few clues. Here's my confirmation bias, run amok. I had never heard that before. And I'm like, holy shit, that's complete confirmation that my belief that the 9 clues or the 9 sentences is accurate. Okay, that's my confirmation bias, guys. Run amok, absolutely. But it just, when most people think of a line, they think of a single line, like begin it where warm waters halt. That seems like a single line out of a 24 line poem, right? Not a whole complete entire sentence or stanza. So again, if the first clue is begin at warm waters halt, I've got a question. Okay, what's the second clue? Is the second clue just a line, or is it a whole nother sentence? Because if the first few clues are those 2 stanzas, according to Forrest, I don't know. Again, this is why there's just, and I've said this before, guys, there's just so much noise out there. I said this almost exactly 2 years ago now in my Evolution of a Poem Purist video. There's just so much noise out there. At that time, we only had 180 something scrapbooks. Here it is 2 years later. We've got 249 now? We've got 80 more scrapbooks that have come out in the last 2 years. We've got how many more interviews? We got how many more thousands upon millions of words in the forums from all of us searchers, putting more information out there and more interpretations and analysis of all this stuff. It's just overwhelming. And that's why it seems so much easier for me, again, to just focus on the poem. Yes, again, guys, I know all these quotes and everything out there, maybe not as well as everybody else, but I know them pretty well. And I pay attention to these things, but they're not the foundation or the cornerstones of my solve. The cornerstones of my solve and the foundation is the poem itself, and just focusing on that. But when I hear things like this, it just seems to, again, it's a confidence builder. It's not a confirmation. And that's where you have to make that, you have to analyze and check yourself, you know, because you can just run off crazy, you know. Cheers. Let me go and just check, see what you guys are saying in here. Again, guys, I go off on tangents and I miss the chat room. So I'm just scrolling back up. Okay, that was the last one from Minotaur that we went off on a tangent. So Sassafras CMT says, he said that before about the second stanza being 3 or 4 clues. Sassafras, I don't think he said that they were 3 or 4 clues. When someone read the second stanza to him, he said, I think that the interviewer said, it sounds like 2 clues there to me, and Forrest Fenn said, sounds like 3 or 4. You know, but I don't think, you know, Forrest Fenn saying that it sounds like 3 or 4 to him is actually confirmation that they are. Because for one to say something it sounds like 3 or 4 doesn't necessarily mean, because you could say sounds like, because it's 4 different lines, right, Sassafras? You know, begin it where warm waters halt, 1, and take it in the canyon down, 2, not far but too far to walk, 3, and put in below the home around. Sounds like 4, right? When you read it that way or you look at it in the poem, sure, but that doesn't mean it is. And I think there was somebody else in one of the forums before that was talking back and forth, and he said, sounds like 3 or 4 to me could have been him saying it sounds like clue number 3 or clue number 4. You know, so that's kind of a flip side thought of it too, right? It's a different way to think. It's not the norm, but I think the norm, or the kind of the consensus, you know, amongst many searchers is that it sounds like 3 or 4, and then they take that to mean that that's 3 or 4 clues, you know, and combined with him saying the first clue is this, that's just, you know, confirmation to them. And they might be the right ones. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying, you know, this is my interpretation. So yeah, I think what you're saying there, Sassafras, we're kind of on the same sheet there, maybe. Lucky Schmitz, how are you? It's a new name I've never seen. What's up, Flipside? And everyone about to shotgun a beer. Well, cheers. Good luck, buddy. I think the last time I shotgunned a beer was on my 40th birthday. Guys, I'm going to be 50 here in a couple months. I'm feeling it. And the sad thing is my wife and, you know, some good friends of ours and stuff, we were planning to go to Nashville at the end of May for my 50th. And now we're kind of like, oh shit, you know, they had the, you know, obviously the tornadoes there. And now with the virus, we're like, oh shit, and we've already prepaid for our, you know, we rented a home there and everything else. We've kind of prepaid for that. And we're going to the Grand Ole Opry. We prepaid for that. So we're like, holy shit, you know, we're kind of concerned about that. So hopefully everything works out. You know, that's the plan. Again, guys, make sure you comment and like the video so you can win this toilet paper roll. Just kidding. I'm having a good time. Huli says, page 14, Caliph, what do you believe that word to be capitalized? Well, Caliph, we're talking about where he's talking about reading that book, where, what does he say? You know, to the Caliph I am dirt, but to the dirt I am the Caliph, right? Isn't that what he says in there, Huli? Caliph is capitalized because I think, isn't Caliph like I'm totally going to butcher this, guys, and I'm probably getting it wrong. Isn't it like an Islamic word for like a leader or a person or a god or something like that? So to an average, you know, to a god or to a leader or to somebody else, an average person is just dirt. But to the dirt itself, an average person is a god. Again, it's about perspective, right? Isn't it Forrest Fenn told us? To an ant, a mud puddle can be an ocean. So it's all about perspective, right? it's capitalized possibly for that reason. And again, yeah, there's several different reasons or examples throughout the book where Forrest Fenn capitalized things. Have I caught all of them? No, probably not. I've read that book probably maybe 10 times. Doesn't mean I haven't read individual stories that I really like. My favorite being Important Literature, several times. But yeah, interesting, Huli, sure. We can talk more over on the Facebook group about that if you like. You guys, if you guys don't know, I do have a Facebook group called The Flip Side of the Forrest Fenn Treasure Hunt. If you want, you can go over there and look it up. Unfortunately, I heard, I don't know if it's true, that Sasha and Jason are talking about taking down their Facebook channel. I hope that doesn't happen. Just some unfortunate drama that's going on with that. And we can move on past that. Cheers. Where is Sasha and Jason? Wake up, you two. Need to text them. Just checking the chat before I move on to the next thing. Kismet, yeah. Caliph means king. Thank you, Alan K, for getting that out there. What's accurate? I was skirting around it, but king, sure, that's what's right. Okay. So now the next thing I want to talk about is a short conversation I was having with Jenny Kyle over Mysterious Writings. I'm going to try and pull this up here because I kind of want to get it right. But my computer's been acting up along with the internet. So if this kills it, I hope it doesn't. I'm surprised we've made it this long. Doing all right. So there's a thread over on Mysterious Writings under the Forrest Fenn Thrill of the Chase Treasure Hunt, general discussion. You guys can find this. But it's titled Geographical, Directional, and Information Lines of the Poem. And it's some really good thought process that Jenny started off with there. And I highly suggest if you're not a member of Mysterious Writings, become one, or at least go over there and check it out. There's a lot of good conversation going on over there. And see if I can find this. But Jenny had brought up from the 6 questions with Forrest. It was actually the very first one that she did back in 2013. And the response that Forrest Fenn gave, and you guys can go look this up. I'm not going to read it verbatim, but I'm just going to read Forrest Fenn's response to a question. And the response that Forrest Fenn gave, and Jenny had brought up in here, was that Forrest Fenn said, "What I didn't expect was the number of people who immediately started searching maps and using Google Earth to locate their special spots. Many have read my book multiple times looking for additional clues or even hints that might assist them in the hunt." So what the whole context of Jenny's point is, and this is what she says verbatim, is that Forrest didn't expect many of us to start searching maps, ? And yet, this is how we have been told to solve the poem. What are we supposed to do? Was he surprised we were searching maps or just the number of people doing it? And I think Jenny makes a very good point here. Why was Forrest Fenn surprised or whatever that he really didn't expect so many searchers to so immediately start searching maps and using Google Earth to find, quote unquote, their special spots? And I think so I think Jenny just kind of asked that question. If that's what we're supposed to be doing, if according to Forrest Fenn, his advice was to new searchers is to look for the clues in his poem and try to marry them to a place on a map, why was he surprised that people, this is in 2013, why was he surprised at that time, or that he didn't expect so many people to immediately go to maps and Google Earth looking for their special spots? And my response and my thought on this, and this is what I told Jenny. I said, Jenny, if you don't know where you're going, then any map will do. And what I mean by that is kind of what Forrest Fenn has said. If you don't know where you're going, any road will do, or any road will take you there. What I think and what I believe Forrest Fenn didn't expect people to go looking at maps so immediately is because maybe he really expected people to figure out where to start. Because if you don't know where you're going, any map will do. If you can figure out the correct starting point, then what map you need will then be obvious. Does that not make sense to people? And I'm going to flash back over here. It seems so blatantly obvious to me, and maybe it's not obvious to the masses. Maybe to all you guys, you're like, I don't get that, or it makes no sense to me, or Sean, you're completely wrong. And you may be right, I may be completely wrong. Cheers. But it seems obvious to me that if you want to go to your friend's house and you don't know where they live, you've got to have them give you directions or tell you where they live, right? If you don't know where you're going, then any map will do. So you've got to figure out where the starting point is. Once you have the starting point, then you will know, what map you need. It's kind of comical because I think it's not comical. Maybe that's the wrong word. Again, that's my biased opinion coming out. There's a lot of people that believe that the poem tells you the correct state. Or there's some people that even believe that the poem is going to tell you exactly where to park your car. I don't believe that. I believe that if you know the correct starting point, then where you need to park your car, or even where Forrest Fenn parked his car, and what state the treasure is in, will be blatantly obvious if you know where to start. Right? Now, I'm not knocking those people that believe that Warm Waters Halt could be in one state and put in below the Homer Brown could be in a completely different state. I'm not knocking that. Okay. I'm not saying that cannot be the case, because it could well be. I personally don't believe that. But if you know where the correct starting point is, I personally don't believe the correct starting point is Warm Waters Halt. I don't believe that. I'm not going to go into great detail on that. I don't believe that. I think the correct starting point, the information that gives you the correct starting point, falls within begin and from there. The information that's in between those two things gives you the correct starting point. My opinion doesn't make it right. But if you know that correct starting point, then the state and where the fuck you need to park your car is going to be blatantly obvious to you. And it should be. He doesn't need to give you a clue that says, hey, look, I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through this, park your car here, pay this fee or whatever you got to do. He's not going to do that. I could be wrong. I don't see why he would waste his time 15 years trying to figure out how he's got to tell somebody to park. He's not going to walk your hand through this whole thing. Journeyman, any road is for a journey, one road is a destination. Sure. Yeah. Cheers. Okay, guys. We're almost at an hour here. Again, this is the non-PC beer drinking, thrill of the chase talking show. We're up late at night. You got Finn on the brain. You want to come in here and chat and talk about it. I don't want to go on too long tonight. I just really wanted to get those things out there and talk about, Homer Brown and this whole recent featured Q&A. I want to talk a little bit about the first stanza and why I believe it doesn't necessarily have to be pointing to a geographical region that you must then find where Warm Waters Halt resides within. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, why Forrest Fenn didn't expect people to go looking at maps so soon. Again, I think he maybe really expected people to figure out that first clue. And that's why he's been so adamant about this is the first clue. You've got to first figure this out before anything else makes sense. Again, in there may not make sense until you figure out where you got to start. Then it may all go, oh, that makes more sense. Maybe. Doesn't mean it's true. But anything else you guys got out there want to talk about? Remember, free toilet paper roll. I'm just checking the chat. Mark Connor, what state I live in? I live in New Mexico. Sometimes the state of confusion. Lucky Schmitz, what's up? Flipside, I think I already hit that. Sassafras, we talked. Yeah, there was there was some chat back and forth about how a lot of stuff, there's a lot of misleading information out there, in the YouTube Fenverse right now, Fenverse, whatever you want to call it. I don't think people are intentionally trying to mislead people. I don't think that's intentional. I could be wrong. I think people have their own opinions and their own biases, and that comes out. I don't like it when people turn around and say other people are wrong. You know, you're wrong and blah blah blah. You can't speak in absolutes. None of us have an absolute clue about what any of this means until we recover the treasure chest. I mean, that has got to be the brutally honest that we all have to admit to. We don't. Again, I'm the one that believes that we have absolutely no confirmers in this. You know, I had a video that we did with DeCall, Mike Davis, and Dale Natzel, where we talked about why is this thing so difficult, you know, to solve, and that really is in our belief that because there's no real confirmers out there. Now, people disagree with that, and that's okay. You know, disagreement and debate are healthy. It's what helps us adjust. It's what's helped us, you know, make changes in how we think, and that's a good thing. But I just don't believe that there's any real confirmers, and that's what makes this so difficult. Is that we may have all these great ideas and thoughts and theories and everything else, but there's no confirmation we have anything right. And I say it a lot. You know, our interpretation of Forrest Fenn's words are not confirmation of his intent. You know, so you cannot turn around and say another person is wrong, because then that entails that you know the facts, and we don't. I don't know anything for fact. I know for a fact that it's not in Nevada. I know for a fact that it's not in Kansas. You know, it has to be in one of those 4 states. Sure, we know that as a fact. That is a check and balance. If you're solved, or where you think the treasure is outside of those parameters, well, okay, you're wrong. And I think we'd all agree upon that. We also know that the treasure is located below 10,200 feet and above 5,000 feet. If your solve, or where you think the treasure is located outside of that elevation parameter, you're probably wrong, or you are wrong. I mean, we know those things as definitive facts that Forrest Fenn has told us, right? But everything else, you know, the fact that Forrest Fenn has never definitively said that the 9 clues reside within begin and cease. He's never said that. Is it still plausible? Absolutely. Forrest Fenn has never definitively said that the 9 clues are the 9 sentences. Is it still plausible? Yes. Is it provable? No. I mean, all this stuff is just our conjecture. It's just our ideas and just our theories. So none of us are wrong. Even as crazy as you may think some of these people are out there, who's crazy? You know, I remember having a sit-down talk with Jens, the documentarian, and, you know, we talked about that. You know, there's a lot of people that think certain people are crazy. And then I said, well, who's crazy? You know, is it us searchers that are crazy because we're out there searching for a treasure? Or is it really the crazy people out there that have given up on their imaginative 13-year-old that searches for treasure? And instead, they've given up on just living a 9-to-5 life of going out there and working, coming home and having a pizza and going to bed and waking up in the morning doing the same. Who's the crazy people? Are we the 7%ers? If we're the 7%er because we believe and treasure and we're out there having fun, God bless it. I'll be a 7%er, guys. And we're all in that same boat together, because I don't want to be the person that just is that 9-to-5 guy that goes to work, comes home, and that's it. I want some adventure in my life, and this is our adventure. This is it. We're having a blast. GCG, I see you in there. I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you, brother. World famous gamer. That's it. What's it? That's all, folks. I still got some beer left, so we got a little more time to talk. Yeah, Sassafras. I had the Flip Side Facebook group a little over a year ago, and then closed it down due to some BS drama. There was like 300 members or something at the time. I kind of just went there and cleaned it all out because I just wanted to get rid of some of the drama that was ensuing. I opened it back up, but it's been kind of quiet. I don't talk a whole lot much in it, but I'm wanting to communicate more with those people that And I don't want a bunch of bobbleheads. I'm not saying that. But I want people in there that can see past some of the crap that goes on. And that's all I'm going to say about that. But I like it because then I know who the fuck I'm talking to, if I can be blunt, you know, and if somebody's going to come in there and wants to be an a-hole, then I know who they are. You know, you can't hide behind a pseudonym and lob insults and blasphemy and everything else at somebody. If you're going to do it, you know, be a man, be a woman about it and do it. And that's okay. You know, I can handle it. And hopefully you can handle what I can throw back. But that Facebook group allows that ability and allows me to control that and know who's saying what. If you can understand that and respect that, because not to go into the past, but I've had issues with particular people and had to deal with that in my own way, and had to deal with that with my own search partner, unfortunately. And some of you know about that, and had to, you know, to do what I felt was the right thing. You know, and I will still believe that was the right thing, even though some people, you know, give me shit about it. Cheers. Sean Malloy, I didn't say she was a nurse. I did say she works at the hospital. Yeah, but you're right. Hospital staff, they've got it rough right now. So, you know, tip your nurses and CNAs and janitorial staff and everybody that works in those hospitals, because those people, you know, really deserve our respect and everything that they're doing for us right now out there. And they, you know, they get a lot of shit, you know, but they're doing a lot of good things right now, doing the best they can. I think, you know, with everything that's going on, you know, I hate to get into politics on this, but I've just got to say something that bugs me. And guys, I'm a fiscal conservative and a social liberal. So if you can make sense of that, hopefully you understand that. So I hate to say I'm a Republican, and I hate to say I'm a Democrat. Again, I'm a fiscal conservative, which is mostly Republican, and I'm a social Democrat, or a social liberal, which is kind of on the Democrat liberal side. But I find it funny that, you know, when Trump had started this whole travel ban, that it was Biden that immediately called him a xenophobe, you know. But now we've got the most liberal states in the country are the ones that are doing the 24-hour ban, you know, on people are supposed to stay in their homes. You got California, New York, Chicago, Connecticut. You know, I mean, these are some of the most liberal states in our country. You know, okay, well, who's the xenophobe then? I think it's the right thing to do. Don't get me wrong. You know, I look at this and go, okay, if we're really, you know, going to try and contain this virus, keeping us all at home and away from it might be the best thing to do. You know, now this flies counterintuitive to all the smallpox, you know, parties that our parents used to have in the 70s, you know, that get all the kids get caught, you know, get smallpox and get it out of the way. You know, this is a completely different story. You know, I think our country is working on a vaccine. I think they're doing the best thing they can. Is everybody going to agree with that? No, they're not. Again, you know, I thought that piece of cake was the right size. My daughter thought it was too small, and my wife thought it was too big. We all have different opinions. We're subjective human beings with biases. So not everybody's going to agree. I'm sure there's plenty of Republicans that don't agree with what Trump is doing, and probably every Democrat doesn't agree with what Trump is doing. Different opinions. Why are we seeing all these messages retracted? I'm not doing anything there. Yeah, Sassafras, I don't think secure borders is about racism. But hey, that's the talking point to get people against it. You throw the race card and it fires people up, right? I don't know. Again, that's my fiscal conservative side coming out, you know, and I'm getting beat up on this side. I can take it. It's all right. Self-accountable. I like the name. It's good. We all should be self-accountable. My wife is a nurse and reports tomorrow to the ICU. She has had to work bedside for 5 years. Preston service here in Minnesota unexpectedly will be self quarantine from her. Wow. That's hard, you know, self-accountable. Do you have kids and stuff? I mean, that's got to be really hard, you know, kids not being able to see mom, and that puts a lot of pressure, you know, if you are a father and have kids at home, you know, absolutely. 3D bonds, it was chocolate cake. Yes, I love chocolate cake too. Yeah. You have 3 kids. Yeah. I have 4. I have 2 daughters at the age of 20, and I have a son who's 4 and a daughter who's 6. Yeah. So it's, you know, nights like tonight when, you know, my wife is at work, she works 12-hour shift, you know, I'm, you know, stay-at-home dad, kind of, sort of, you know, I work too, but, you know, it works for our family unit. And, but yeah, it's taxing. It's more taxing on my wife because, you know, she works another job. So it's not just her job at the hospital. So she's got to, you know, come home and sometimes get minimal sleep and go to another job. And in trying times, you know, like we're having right now, you know, you have to do what you got to do. You know, in my personal job, I took a 20% pay cut on my salary, you know, to help keep our business afloat. You know, and that was mandated across our, you know, we have nearly 100 employees in our company, and we took a 20% pay cut, those of us on salary. And those of our hourly employees had to take an 8-hour-a-week pay, you know, cut. You know, we're trying to do what we can to obviously keep our business afloat. And there's, you know, businesses across the nation that are going through even harder times than that. So, you know, that's hard. And I'm close personal friends and with those that run our business and our company. So I know how difficult that is. And for our military guys that are out there now, this is a very trying time for our military. You know, we have thousands of soldiers that are overseas and deployed in places across our country. If we have to come to a point where we're using the Stafford Act or something else and deploying a lot of our you know, National Guard and even regular forces out there to do whatever in our country, you know, that puts a complete strain on our military as well, does it not? So again, you know, we've got to give our respect and respect those individuals that are out there trying to protect us as well, I think. But yeah, it's you know, it's scary times. I mean, again, in a prior life, I was a military analyst, and my job was to kind of, you know, act as the enemy and think like the enemy. Now, if I was thinking like the enemy, and one of my jobs, you know, prior to 9/11, is I was an instructor at the intelligence center in school. I was instructing other military intelligence analysts to become analysts for the military. And we used to, one of the areas that I taught within that training period was what was called operations other than war, or we called it UTWA. And it was really about, you know, non-traditional tactics, of guerrilla tactics, those types of things, and how the enemy would take advantage of certain situations. Now, let's just hypothetically say, and we all must believe that there are terrorist cells out there still operating or are kind of quiet right now within our country and around the world, really. Would they not see this as an opportunity to cause discourse and confusion in our country and around the world by trying to, you know, purposely spread this virus? I wholeheartedly believe so. And I've got to believe that our government and those smarter than all of us out there, we hope that are smarter than us out there, are thinking these kind of thoughts and are trying to mitigate that as best as they can. At least if I was an analyst and I was briefing some commander, this is what I would be saying. We need to be trying to mitigate this possibility as best as we can. How we do that, I don't know. You know, I'm not in that know anymore. But I think that a lot of these places may be going into this 24-hour lockdown and trying to protect people. This could be one of the things that they're trying to protect us from. I'm just throwing that out there, guys. I don't know that it's fact. it's just a possibility. So, you know, give our military, give our police forces, give our, you know, our services, you know, our nurses and everybody else in the hospital a little bit of slack and understanding that this is what may be going on. We just don't know. So don't be so upset if those things happen in your communities. It's just a way to try and protect us. You know, you may not agree with it because he's our president or you don't believe in this kind of act, but I think it's what's best for our country and the world, really. That's just my flip side thoughts on that, guys. Anyway, guys, we've been here for a little over an hour. It's good to talk to some of you guys again. I know I haven't talked to you guys in 6 months if you're not on, you know, Harry's or Mysterious Writings. I sometimes post on Dale's. There's some good people I love talking with over there. One of my favorite people to talk to is Jake. I know he's in the room here, Jake Faulkner, or Seeker. Those are a couple guys I really respect their opinions and talking with those guys. So anytime I get a chance to communicate with them, it's good. All my friends over at Harry's and guys I've known for years, I love talking with them. If you're not a part of Harry's, you know, try and come over there. If you can't get in there, send me an email. I'll try and post something to admin to see if we can get an exception to get you in there, because I think Harry keeps a tight ship over there and keeping, you know, a tight-knit group over there. And it is a good group. You know, we debate and we clash heads sometimes and call each other names, but it is what it is. That good debate and back and forth is good. You know, even when it's heated sometimes, it's okay. Huli, yeah, I know we've talked a little bit about that. I'll do what I can with Harry to try and get you over there if you're serious about wanting to come over there. Did somebody already say, okay, well, we'll get you a name called The Real Huli, because there's like the real K-Pro, there's the real or the fake Chris Yates. I mean, there's some, I don't know what it is. Maybe some people came over there and took people's names hoping they could pretend that they were somebody else. Bubba, it's too late for that. Give me a minute. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna go. Some of the kids are needing me. Again, it was great to talk with you guys. I'm not promising you any kind of you know, regularity to this show. Regularity of this guy coming in here. But it's good to talk with you guys again and give you, quote unquote, the flip side of the whole, you know, conversations that are going out there. Again, if you want to become part of the Flip Side Facebook group, you can come over there and request. And I generally won't deny anybody. I like to keep it a small group, and I'll commit to communicating a little bit more over there with you guys. So good to see you guys, and we hope to catch you all on the flip side. Have a good night. Bye. Say bye, Bubba.